Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Poland is threatened by a third wave of the coronavirus epidemic. This is a warning from Professor Andrzej Horban, the Prime Minister's chief advisor on the pandemic. Professor Horban added that if the increase in the new cases continues, the economy might be expected to close again. The number of infections continued to decline from mid-November. However, in the last week, the trend has changed. So far, the upturn has reached around 5,000 new cases diagnosed each day. If this trend continues, it could lead to a third wave of the pandemic.
Zarysowany siedmiodniowy trend.
The 7-day trend shows that the number of infected people is increasing. This indicates that in the coming days and weeks, we will have more and more people infected. Maintaining coronavirus restrictions is crucial to avoiding the third wave of the pandemic. Events like the recent corona party on the streets of Zakopane might jeopardize the whole containment effort. The disease curve has already flattened, stabilised, and this allowed the government to allow children in grades 1 to 3 to return to school. Well, unfortunately, as we can see what is happening today, it must be said that the prospects for the rest of the students to return to school are becoming worse. Some politicians encourage a lifting of the restrictions.
Niezależnie od tego, czy będzie.
Regardless of whether there will be another wave of cases or not, one should accept it and adopt as few restrictions as possible. Vaccinations can certainly be helpful in returning to normality. All the effort, all the work of this vaccination program should go towards vaccinating those who have the most complications and deaths. And these are people aged 70 and 80 plus. If they get vaccinated, we will see a dramatic decrease in hospital visits and deaths within 2 weeks. Unfortunately, there have been delays in the supply of vaccines from manufacturers recently. We have good news because this week we received a larger supply of Pfizer vaccines than before. It's 387,000 doses, and the manufacturer has announced that the next batches will also be like that. We do not know what the scale of the possible third wave may be, but certainly we can contribute to keep it in check by maintaining distance, wearing masks and disinfecting hands. The Ministry of Health has announced 5,178 new cases of coronavirus infection and 196 deaths. Approximately 1.5 million people in Poland have been vaccinated, 658,235 with the second dose of the vaccine. Over 46,000 tests were performed. There are currently 203,000 active cases of infection. There are over 12,000 people in hospitals, including 1,274 people on ventilators. In total, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have had nearly 1,600,000 SARS-CoV-2 infections and more than 41,000 people have died. To date, almost 2,200,000 vaccinations have been performed in Poland. The first dose has been given to over 1.5 million people, the second to nearly 660,000. Yesterday, 34,600 vaccinations were given. The government has adopted the strategy for people with disabilities for 2021 to 2030. The purpose of the document is to help provide equal opportunities for disabled people in social and professional life. This year, expenditure on supporting people with disabilities and their carers will amount to over 29.5 billion zloty and will be 91% higher than in 2015. The strategy which we prepared and today we accepted in the Council of Ministers, the strategy for 2021 to 2030. It's the first complex, systemic and comprehensive strategy for people with disabilities.
Wdrożenie Konwencji o prawach osób niepełnosprawnych.
The implementation of the Convention for People with Disabilities, for which those people were waiting. Despite the convention having been ratified 8 years ago, our government started to implement it systematically. The programme, Availability Plus, was the first step. Thus, as a member of the European Union, we took responsibility for this convention, finding reflection in our national policy. And this is happening now.
Zobowiązanie, że ta konwencja znajdzie odzwierciedlenie.
80 years ago, on February the 15th, 1941, a transport plane took off from Great Britain. It ferried to Nazi-occupied Poland the first group of the Home Army Commando unit Cichociemni, or Silent and Unseen. In total, 316 such elite Polish soldiers were flown to Poland. True heroes.
Powstał ten zespół z inicjatywy
This unit was created by Captain
kapitana
Maciej
Macieja
Kalankiewicz,
Kalankiewicza,
pseudonym
późniejszy
Kotwicz, who became a silent
Kotwicz,
unseen with the
który
great
też został
support of General
Cichociemnym.
Sosnkowski.
Zawsze
General Sikorski made a decision in 1940 about training.
Sosnkowskiego.
They were trained in British
Decyzję
SOE special training
naczelny
centers.
generał
Leopold
Sikorski
Okulicki,
podjął już w
Żbik
1940
and
roku o
General
szkolenie.
Kazimierz
Oni byli
Iranek
szkoleni w
Osmecki,
ośrodkach
chief of the intelligence headquarters, were members of the silent
brytyjskich akcji
unseen.
specjalnych.
The only woman was
SOE.
codenamed
Również
Zoe,
brał udział w powstaniu
Elżbieta
warszawskim, była przy
Zawadzka,
komendzie głównej
who also took
Armii
part in the
Krajowej,
Warsaw
ale
Uprising.
głównie
She was also related to
sabotaż,
intelligence
dywersje
headquarters,
przeciwko
but mostly she was
Niemcom.
helping with
Tutaj
sabotage against
pomagała robić,
Germans,
dlatego że
as she knew the German language
świetnie
perfectly.
znała język niemiecki.
Their motto was "Win freedom or die." The first drop under the codename Adolphus took place on the night of February the 15th-16th, 1941. 3 Polish soldiers, Captain Stanisław Krzymowski, Kostka, Lieutenant Józef Zabielski, Żbik, and courier Czesław Raczkowski, Włodek, boarded the British twin-engine Whitley transport plane. After hours of a dangerous flight, the route of which ran directly over Germany, the paratroopers were dropped, not as planned near Włoszczowa in Kielce, but in Cieszyn, Silesia, near Skoczów, in areas incorporated into the Reich. The Cichociemni, or silent and unseen, were Polish soldiers trained in Great Britain for special tasks: sabotage, intelligence, communication and guerrilla operations. The Polish army had sent them home to support the local operations. Initially, their home base was in Great Britain, and from the end of 1943 in Italy. They were all volunteers. They became the elite of fighting Poland. The organisation of their transfers was handled by the Polish section of the British Special Operations Executive, together with Division 6 of the Chief of Staff of the Polish Armed Forces, responsible for liaison with the Home Army headquarters.
Today is the last day of the carnival. Shrovetide starts on Thursday and always ends on the following Tuesday, known in Poland as herring. Traditionally, it is a time for large balls and fun, but this year, because of the coronavirus epidemic, it's slightly different from previous years.
Before the pandemic, the carnival was bustling and joyful. Now things are completely different. We asked professionals about the sense of dancing and having fun during the pandemic.
Teraz mamy czas.
Now is a pandemic time, so the fun is just a memory. On the other hand, quite a lot of carnival and non-carnival events take place online. Dance is a diversion from mundane everyday life. It allows expression, relaxation, and meeting people. It is very important for every human being.
Ma niesamowicie ważną rolę dla każdego człowieka.
Taniec nam pozwala wyrazić bardzo dużo emocji.
Dance allows us to express emotions that we often suppress within ourselves. It allows us to de-stress, to express what we feel through movement.
Słyszymy, czyli muzykę, właśnie poprzez ruch.
Carnival is a time of joy. However, we advise you to use common sense and adhere to pandemic restrictions.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.